these students, right? So I'm going to draw our friend here, the student. So our students would come in and they would either pay a small amount up front or they'd pay a monthly fee, right? Let's say a $100 to $500 a month fee, right?
Okay.
Kind of steep, but like doable if it's a good education.
Hmm.
But by and large, they're not going to pay much up front.
I paid 60,000 for 2 years.
Exactly, right? So you're not really paying much up front. So I'm going to say zero, right? I'm going to say just S for students. So our students are going to come in, right? And I'm going to go to some student and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to get you a job. You just tell me what type of job you want to get into, and I will put together the resources we need to make that happen,
Sure.
right? Could be an experiment, could start with one person. So then what I would do is I would find mentors, right? So I'd find people that are experts in the field, right?
Hmm.
So we'll take the example of graphic design, right? Let's say this person, our student, wants to be a graphic designer. Our mentor is going to be like an art director at a decent sized company or someone who's produced a lot of graphic design art. And I find a group of them, right? And what I would ask these people, I would ask them, okay, if you're just starting, what would you need to know? Would you be willing to partner with me to put together a curriculum of courses that already exist on the internet to get the person who's going to be the student the basic information they need to have a basic understanding in graphic design, right? So I'd have them provide access to content. And I'm not going to go over to their house and record them teaching the class like a college would.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask them, what are the 8 to 10 Udemy courses we should go after and provide to our student? What are the, MIT, not MIT, but what are the Ivy League level lectures that are online for free that we should give this student? What books should they read, right? And this is all low cost, right? Low cost.
Yeah.
Not a $400 book from the bookstore. Low cost, right? So the student will use the content to learn. They'll also use the mentors to learn, because what they'll do is they'll meet up with their mentor maybe like on a once every week, once every 2 week basis as they go through this content, right? So that's the start of the program, right? It's a couple of months going through this content. They're asked to really work hard reading, taking courses, getting a baseline for how to actually think about being a graphic designer,
Sure.
right? So they're meeting, right? Mentor coaching, right? And they are learning. This is so hard. So they're learning, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to companies. And the company, I'm going to ask, hey, what would it take for someone who doesn't have any experience to work at your company? What would they have to show you, right? What kind of things would they have to be capable of doing to work at your company, right, as a graphic designer?
Yeah.
What does a typical graphic design process look like? How could they become a graphic designer, right? Like, what would they need to know? So I would take this information to go to the company. I get access to how they go through some of their process. What would it take for someone to learn how to be like a graphic designer within your company? What kind of skills they need to learn? What does a typical graphic design project look like? What's a typical thing you need to produce? What do you need? And I create a pool of spec work, right? I create a pool of actual real world projects. This company might need actually like low hanging fruit, right? Like maybe P&G needs like a Tide logo. Maybe they just want to see like 40 new iterations on a Tide logo. I'm curious. They just want to know. The student then would do this spec work as a part of their training, right? And they'd be forced to, this would be the crux of the program, right? This is like the key here, where you'd have to do this a lot. It'd be a ton of iterations here. It'd be so many logos, so much production, so many new social media copy ads, so many things, right? You'd produce. And you'd build a portfolio of work. And throughout the time of doing the work, you'd have the mentor meet with you on a regular basis still, and they would give you feedback on your work. And they would let you know, hey, this was bad, this was good. I think you need some help here. This was really good. You need to get work here. And the mentor would literally coach them through the spec work process. Then,
I think that's the biggest place where education today is missing is the portfolio, building the
yeah,
body of work.
a true, actual body of work, like of real work. And most classes, what they do is they focus maybe like on one or two projects, they focus mainly on the content piece, which is a commodity. The content's a
Yeah.
commodity. You can get it anywhere,
Yeah.
right? That's the least valuable part of the entire equation. The most valuable part of the entire equation is students with a community, right? So down here, I'm going to say there's a community of students. There's a group of students who are all going to hold each other accountable, and you're going to have mentors that can give you actual true feedback on your work. And they can introduce you to other people in the industry too if they like you.
Yeah.
And you get access to doing real work, and you build a portfolio. And because you've done so many things for these companies, the last person in the equation is the company's HR department. Then you go to these companies' HR departments and you go, okay, look, I'll make you a deal, right? We have these students here. We have this one student who has produced, you know, 40 to 50 pieces of true work for your company, like true work, and you've seen how much better they've gotten. They've got mentorship from a true art director. They think they're ready. They know exactly what it would take to succeed within your company. Exactly. Yeah. You know what you're getting, 100%. There's no guesswork at all. A P&G type of company would be difficult to convince to do this, but you could take any level company, right? You could have a pool of companies. You could have a pool of little startup restaurants saying, "Hey, look, we need design work, man. We can't afford this stuff. We need design work. We need people that can actually do this for us. And we need a full-time person eventually, but right now, we need to see who's good and who's not. We need examples of things." You can go to companies, be it a big company, be it a small company, and you can say, "Hey, look, these people are proven, right? They have a lot of work to their name. They know how to be a good designer. They've had mentorship, and they know what it would take to produce work for your company. And in fact, you've even used some of their work because we let you use it for free. Why don't you pay us like a typical, like you pay a typical recruiting company, 10% of their salary for the first year, if you hire them and we convince them to kind of go to your company, right? And we funnel somebody from our group to your company and try to get one of them to say yes. So then you get money from the company, and then what you say to this person is you go, part of the deal here is you pay us 10% of your salary for 2 years in your first 2 years in the job. And then you recognize revenue from the student as well. So you're getting a monthly fee, which will help cover the cost of this, which is going to be the most expensive part. This will be kind of expensive, but this is going to be the most expensive part, is paying for these mentors. But if you're a mentor and you want to do this, and you get paid a few $100 a month per student, if you're someone who just wants to give back and wants a part-time supplement to your income to afford your retirement, that's a pretty good deal.
That's a great deal.
That's like 20-ish plus grand a year. I mean, that's pretty substantial for just helping people out and building a network, right? That's pretty good.
Hell yeah.
And you don't have to develop curriculum. You don't have to grade papers. You don't have to do any of that. Right? It's way better than being like a teaching assistant. So yeah, that's how it works. You recognize revenue at the end from the company and from the student, and you can really create a body of work for people by going to companies and getting exactly what they need. So it's this whole churning system. And then what you do is the issue with this at first would be it'd be a big cash flow problem, right? You're not going to get any money up front. You'd have to get money on a monthly basis to pay the mentors. That would help you cover some of the mentor costs and some of the baseline content costs, but you could start very small.
Yeah.
You could start with 1 to 2 people and say, "Hey, look, I want to try this. This is an experiment. Maybe you don't have to pay me at all on a monthly basis. We just see, how it works, and you can pay us at the end."
Yeah.
And I think if you were serious enough about it, you could run a process like this in a year to 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone was serious, they could get there in a year to 18 months.
I think that, yeah, I completely agree. And something about what I'm still trying to figure out, and I know I've talked to you about this, is why we take school so seriously. It's because we've been told that we need that piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what the equivalent would be. What drives you to want to get good grades? Exactly. Yeah.
That's
the portfolio.
It. That's it. The best portfolio.
Yeah, and I think part of just me, what I would think about from just an entrepreneurial point of view, I would want to, and I've thought about this a lot when I think about teaching, how I would want to teach a class. Would I would want them to build that for themselves, not just for the companies. I think if I had saved every single piece of work that I did going through school, every single creative work, piece of writing, and put it somewhere where other people could see it, like a portfolio, like a body of work, any way you could, then I think that like incredibly valuable for the student especially. Because they're like you're sitting in class all day and you're sitting and doing your homework assignments, doing whatever, and you're creating value, whether who like you're not really sure. And I think that's where school misses it, is that they're sitting there creating the value, but they're not letting anybody get the value from it. They're grading it and they're saying this is like how valuable that was, C minus, B
Yeah,
plus.
exactly. It's dumb. It's all backwards. It's all wrong.
Yeah, when it could actually be used for something else, like something that could actually be. You got all these students working 40 hours a week or less or more, and they're not making anything that can be used.
Yeah.
They're just
No, you're
learning.
right.
And I think that's like an inherent flaw in that system.
I
Because if you're
totally agree.
building that whole 4 years, like I'm trying to do, you just keep building, and like in every single course, like what if you had a class in college freshman year that made you write or taught you SEO, made you write 30 blog posts to put it on a website, and
That's
like
value. Yeah. That's
and
huge.
like in 4 years, when you're showing up on Google search and you're like getting 30,000 a month coming into your website, 30,000 visitors a month coming into your website. That's something you can monetize. You can make that decision whether or not you want to go into a company.
Yeah, you're training
Um,
people to be self-sufficient. I think there's a huge of opportunity with it too.